as we've heard, today's COAG meeting also agreed on a new classification for the Adler lever-action shotgun, more than a year after the weapon was banned, pending a decision. The 7-shot Adler will now be placed in Category D, the most restricted group, available only to professional shooters. The 5-shot Adler weapon will be easier to get. It will go into Category B. Robert Borsak from the Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Party in New South Wales is one gun user who had lobbied for easier access, so today's result is not what he wanted. I spoke to him earlier. All right, Robert Borsak, what does this actually mean? Who will be able to access the 7-shot in Category D?
Well, virtually nobody can access them. They're really very, very strictly controlled. That's the same category that controls AR-15s, AK-47s and all sorts of other self-loading firearms of the military style particularly. It's not appropriate to have there. Professional shooters who do have access to those type of firearms, primarily feral animal control. I don't even think farmers actually can get their hands on them. The last thing they would do, if you could get your hands on an AR-15 or something similar, an SKS for quick, clean kills with feral animals as a professional, the last thing you're really going to do is buy a shotgun, a lever-action shotgun.
But technically, couldn't a farmer make the argument that they are a professional who needs to control feral pests on their property and therefore need a Category D weapon?
No, because farmers generally argue that in Category C. And in Category C, they have open to them the ability to get automatic or self-loading shotguns, which are much more efficient, much easier to use, and much more economic if you are a farmer.
So why is this Adler 7 shotgun so important then, and why are you so upset about it if there are many other options out there?
I think we're upset about it because there was no evidence-based reason given for doing any of this. There was no discussion, there was no public debate, if you like. This was an exercise of the Abbott government deciding, preempting, I suppose, the Lint Cafe decision. And if you remember back when the Lint Cafe tragedy occurred, Abbott actually came out and said that Man Monis had a licence. Now, that was ill-informed. Then, fast forward a bit, he calls on the banning of the Adler 7-shot, stops the import of it, and they've been pretty much stuck in that situation ever since. There's been no discussion, no evidence-based reality check as to why this should happen at all.
But I'm just struggling to understand why a farmer would need the Adler 7-shot. For example, you've mentioned there is the Adler 5-shot, which is in an easier category, Category B. It's only 3 bullets difference, and you can modify that one.
It's actually 2 different.
Right. So, and you can modify that as well. So why the debate about this particular shotgun?
Because what it shows is that government at the federal level and governments all over Australia are not prepared to have rational debate. What they are trying to do is to follow the Howard Doctrine. And the Howard Doctrine is, I hate guns, and what I want to see is only the military, the police and security guards, and I might also add to that, criminals have firearms. Eventually he wants to be in a situation where a law-abiding citizen is not entitled, even under licence, with substantial background checks, with safe storage and all the difficult hoops that we've got to jump through. He wants to remove a civil right for the licensed ownership of firearm in Australia. If that's the core of the National Firearms Agreement, then they're going to find a very difficult political road to go down in the future. Well,
let's talk about that political road. Your party just surprisingly won a state seat from the Nationals. There was a huge swing against the Nationals. Do you foresee this particular decision today as a vote turner, or as something that will lead to other people switching to your party and others?
Look, I think it's just one of many bad decisions. I think one of the key issues in all of this, it gets down to honesty, it gets down to transparency. People, especially in the bush, are sick and tired of being lied to. If there's a good reason for doing something, Australian voters, Australian citizens will accept it if they are consulted, if the discussion is fair and the debate is proper. But in this particular case, this is just another straw on the camel's back of people in the bush, and I might also say in the city, losing confidence in the decision-making processes of government, both at a state and federal level.
Do you know many people who use the Adler shotgun, either version of it?
I know a few people that own it. In fact, last week I was away with one fellow who had one. We were shooting ducks.
Do you know many people who would want to get one now, knowing the decision today?
I think what's happened at least, of course, with the 5-shot, because they've continued to be sold over this period of time, is that there's been a boom in demand for those firearms.
So there's a lot of them out there now.
Look, I can't hazard at a guess, but I would think somewhere between 3,000 to 5,000, maybe 6,000 Australia-wide of the 5-shot.
What will happen to the Adler 7-shot now? You just think no one will buy it, because if they can get access to Category D, they'll get a much more powerful weapon instead. Is that
well,
what
if you're a pest controller, you wouldn't. I don't think you would be interested at all in buying an Adler shotgun. Why even bother if you are a pest controller to go to Category D if you can get one in Category B as a 5-shot? The reality is the difference between an extra 2 shots really makes no difference at all.
Just finally and briefly, what's the end game here for you? Do you want a complete relaxation on all weapons in Australia and to make them all much easier to get for anyone who
Look,
gets a license?
the end game for the Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Party is to see that all shooters, all fishers, all farmers are dealt with properly, that they are not ruled on from on high, that we can see a day when shooters won't be treated as pariahs, that shooters will get a fair go, and we're not seeing that at the moment. And this decision today, as a deliberate, quick and dirty stitch-up by Minister Keenan, won't augur well, not just at the state level, but at the federal level as well. Politically, we will campaign against this right across the board, as will One Nation now, and as, of course, will the LDP.
Robert Borsak, thank you.
Thank you.